Hey guys, welcome to another unscripted, extemporaneous video where I talk about my journey of experiencing Super Sentai for the first time. As per usual, I want to start this video by thanking all of you Super Sentai fans for welcoming me into this franchise, into this fandom, I should say. This is one of the greatest fandoms I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. Is there the occasional bad apple? Absolutely, but we ignore them. But just generally speaking, you guys put most fandoms to shame, and I just need to point that out. So thank you. Anyway, so let's jump right into this. Today, we're going to talk about the next two shows after O-Ranger that were adapted into Power Rangers seasons. Carrangers and Megaranger. Now, last time we talked about O-Ranger, the show that was adapted into Power Rangers Zeo, and that was the Super Sentai that nearly ended the franchise. Even though it's a fine show, and I recommend it, check it out. But it nearly ended the franchise for a myriad of reasons, and there's an alternate reality where O-Ranger was the last Super Sentai show. But thankfully, due to the way that they produced Super Sentai, it wasn't, and they got a second chance. They got another chance, I should say. And how do they produce Super Sentai? Well, a new season of Super Sentai is being produced as the current season is airing. So, because Carranger was already produced, they went ahead and aired it. But had that episode not have been completed, it probably would have ended with O-Ranger. Anyway, so let's talk about the next Super Sentai show that came out after O-Ranger. Racing Squadron Carranger! So this was the show that was adapted into Power Rangers Turbo, which many consider to be the absolute worst season of Power Rangers, and the one that almost ended Power Rangers. While O-Rangers almost ended Super Sentai, Power Rangers Turbo almost ended Power Rangers. If it hadn't been for Power Rangers in Space, Power Rangers, would have ended. Anyway, but here's the irony. While Power Rangers Turbo almost ended that franchise, Carranger ended up saving Super Sentai, which is mind-blowing. Also, a weird coincidence, and probably an explanation for Power Rangers Turbo's title, but before Carranger, before Ranger, in the 80s, there was another Super Sentai show called Turbo Ranger, which was car themed and featured what I'm pretty sure was the first team that was comprised entirely of teenagers. Feel free to correct me on that. So I feel that that's where the Turbo name came from. It came from Turbo Ranger. But this is not an adaptation. But that was not the show that was adapted into Power Rangers Turbo. Carranger was. So there you go. Anyway, so what the heck is Carranger about? So get ready for this. It's a little silly, but stay with me. So, the Emperor of Space wants to build an interstellar, intergalactic highway in space. But there's a few planets in his way, so he starts destroying planets. One of the planets he destroys, the only survivor, is this alien that looks like a cross between Mac and Me and Dubby from Harry Potter, called Dapu. And Dapu's planet is destroyed to build this intergalactic highway, so he doesn't want that to happen to another planet. The next planet to be this that is on the list to be destroyed is Earth. So he goes to Earth, and in his culture, the highest achievement in mechanical engineering are cars. From his point of view, in his culture, people who are very good at driving cars, fixing cars, dealing with cars are the ultimate warriors. So instead of recruiting soldiers, warriors, police officers to help him fight off this oncoming threat, he acquires the help of a bunch of employees that work for an independently owned automotive company called Pegasus. Pegasus Motors, I believe. And they're not even like the top employees. They're just like they're just grunts that work for the company. Like the test car driver, the car designer, their sales representative, their mechanic, and their secretary. Those are the people that he recruits to be the Carrangers, gives them the technology and the equipment to fight off this oncoming threat. So to facilitate preparing this planet to be destroyed, get it out of the way, the Emperor of Space hires this gang of thugs called the Buzzdogs they're basically space bikers. They're just space mercenaries, like a space biker gang, to come and like basically bully humanity out of the way, destroy humanity, get them out of the way, so the space emperor can come in and destroy the planet and build his intergalactic highway. Yes, his plan is the exact same plan as Judge Doom from Roger Rabbit, and also the Thanagarians from the season 2 finale of Justice League. So, silly plan, but not a bad plan. Anyway, but here's what really sets this show apart, and the reason why I believe it saves Super Sentai. Now, you guys remember when I talked about Carranger and how that show was very campy. It was very much in the style of the Adam West Batman show. However, that show would still occasionally hit you with heart-wrenching, dramatic moments that would catch you completely off guard. Very similar to Legends of Tomorrow, how it's a very goofy show, but occasionally they would have great dramatic moments. Carranger, on the other hand, has no fucks to give. Holy shit, this is a straight up comedy, and they don't care. In the first episode, when Dapu tries to recruit the Pegasus employees to become the Carrangers, they have no interest in that. They just want to go on with their lives. They don't want to save the world. They don't want to fight monsters. They just want to do their jobs, make money, and move on with their lives. So Dapu goes to fight the bad guys on his own, gets hurt, and the Pegasus employees like come up and they cradle him. It's like, oh my god, you're dying. It's like, avenge me. You have to fight the Buzzdogs for me and save the planet. It's what I would say if I was dying, and I would have died if you would help. That's the first episode. Immediately, they completely deflate and derail what could have been this major dramatic moment. And the whole show is like that. It never takes itself too seriously. If Super Sentai shows like Bioman and Jetman are a fine multi-course meal, Carranger is just dessert. It's just a comfort show. It's all it is. It's a warm blanket. It's just you sit down, you turn off your brain, and you just laugh and you enjoy it. It is relentlessly silly, but in the best way possible, like an old school Mel Brooks parody movie. It's very much like that. And all the literature that I could find on the show would always describe it as a parody of Super Sentai. And yeah, I guess you could say that. They downplay, they make fun of a lot of the moments. There's this great moment where Minoru, the green Carranger, the green racer, he is just in his civilian guise, and he starts practicing those silly poses that they do, you know, when they like transform, and he's actually practicing the poses, and he finally settles on a pose that he likes, and he's like, okay, got it, I am so cool. No, you're not cool. But refreshing to see them actually be so self-aware that these things are so silly, and be open about making fun of these things. It's okay to make fun of yourself. It's okay to riff on things that you love. It's 100% okay. So that's pretty much the whole show. Just delivering amazing action-packed Super Sentai moments, but also taking the time to make fun of them because, hey, this stuff is silly and it's okay. So something that I forgot to say in the previous two videos, after a while it got to a point where the sixth ranger, the sixth person that would join the Rangers in their adventures, really started to suck. And I think it started with Carranger. As much as I love Carranger, with Ninja Man, I hated that character. In O-Ranger, the guy who's like a bell and he turns into like a Roman warrior, hated that guy's stinking guts. And that continues in this show with Signal Man. And there's so many people who have told me they love Signal Man, and I'm sorry, I don't see it. He is just this pretentious dickwad that is just in the way. It's like, just move, leave. And the Carrangers are doing fine on their own. We don't need you. He looks like RoboCop had sex with a squad car. And something in this show that highlights even further how lame and superfluous Signal Man is VRV Master, better known in Power Rangers Turbo, as the Phantom Ranger. Now, I've never seen Power Rangers Turbo. I don't care to see it. I only know it by reputation. Anybody who's ever seen it tells me that it's horrible. So I don't know how the Phantom Ranger is portrayed on that show, but I'll tell you right now that VRV Master on Carranger is awesome. He is one of the most badass characters ever. He is like a Robert Rodriguez character. When he shows up, he has that cool theme song that follows him around. VRV Master, the lone wolf of the universe. Mysterious and cool, weird, but effective. And as far as I know, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but the Phantom Ranger's identity was never revealed in Power Rangers. If it has, let me know what it was, because I've always wondered about that. They do reveal it here, but I will admit it's kind of lame. I wish he would have just remained VRV Master and not had his identity revealed, but is Dapu's dad. Dapu's dad survived the destruction of their planet. That's it. That's the reveal at the end. I just really preferred VRV Master to be more mysterious. As far as the vehicles and the robots and stuff like that, I'm sure a lot of you remember me complaining excessively how lame it was for the Zords to be cars when I did my Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, Blockbuster Buster video. Well, often as the Blockbuster Buster, I'm just trying to be funny. I'm just trying to make fun of obsessive compulsive gatekeeping asshole fanboys who take things too seriously. But that was one movie that was just bad. And one of the points that I said that I 100% meant is that I just thought that the car-shaped Zords were lame. Where the Zords could be anything, why make them cars? Well, in this show, like I said, it's explained. They consider cars to be the ultimate machines. So there's a reason for it. I still thought that the mechs were kind of lame, and they really didn't do much against the giant monsters. So, it was imperative for them to become the giant robot. So I really loved it when they switched to the emergency vehicles, which I honestly thought was like a backdoor pilot for Go-Go 5, which I will talk about in a future video. But yes, I preferred the rescue vehicles, but the whole time I was watching the show, the rescue vehicles come out of the Tokyo Dome, one of the biggest landmarks in Japan. So I'm wondering how they handled that in Power Rangers Turbo. Do the rescue vehicles, the secondary Zords, still come out of the Tokyo Dome? If so, how do they get, across the pond and over to Angel Grove on the west coast of the U.S.? Just wondering about that. Anyway, Um, Among the many delightfully goofy things that is so stupid, but I absolutely love, is that, like I said, the bad guys, they're not magic, they're not supernatural, they're just these space bikers, these aliens, these alien thugs. So, how do they explain how exactly they become giant? So, the explanation in the show for them transforming into giants is that they have an adverse reaction to eating this very common traditional Japanese dessert called imoyokan. I am not kidding. And imoyokan is like these cubes that are made from the paste of sweet potatoes. And furthermore, it's not just them eating this Japanese dessert. They have to buy it at this exact corner store located in the town where Pegasus Motors is located, and it has to be from that same location and made by this particular older gentleman that works at the location, and it has to be fresh. If it's not fresh, the buzz dog that eats it just gets a tummy ache, and that's it. They don't grow giant. So just the insane ridiculousness of that, but also what a wonderful advertisement to a traditional Japanese dessert. I want to try imoyoken. I don't care if I turn into a giant monster, which would be cool and fun, but I just want to try it. And Carranger has done an amazing job of advertising it. So something that I posted on Twitter, and immediately everybody unanimously agreed, which is rare on Twitter. You usually get the occasional comments like, I disagree for this and that reason, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but that's annoying. Was that I felt that the character of Zonet from this show was a million times better than Diva-Tux from Power Rangers Turbo. So why is Zonet better than Diva-Tux? And it's not just the fact that the character is not as annoying as Diva-Tux. And like I said, this is a comedy, so Zonet is very much a comedy character as well. But it's just unlike Diva-Tux, who's this cartoonish Adam West Batman style villain, with the gimmicks and the henchmen, and just a villain that never feels threatening and you can never take seriously. Zonet is a fully fleshed character, multi-tiered, very interesting, and it's not just eye candy. Both characters are played by gorgeous women, and something that is highlighted repeatedly on both shows, that they're both very good looking and often get away with things because they are pretty. However, with Zonet, it's used a hell of a lot better. So her backstory is this, that she was the princess, the heir to the throne of this one of the biggest and most important planets in the universe, but she didn't want that responsibility. She saw the way her parents were. She saw how much of a drag being a ruler is, and she basically just ran away from home. And she is one of the most powerful people in the universe and could do anything, but she just wants to be free. She's just sowing her wild oats. She just wants to experience life, and she falls in with the wrong crowd. She lived such a sheltered life that in desperation to find freedom from that, she ran off with the Buzz Dogs. She ran off with this gang of thugs. And she's so powerful that not only can she hold her own against them, she's a major asset to them. So technically speaking, she's not the leader, but she's one of the smartest members of the group, and a lot of the times her plans are the better plans. Which another thing that I found very interesting, their boss, the person that hired them is the Emperor of Space, but the Buzz Dogs, they switch out leadership. They take turns coming up with plans to destroy the Earth and get rid of the Carranger. So she's this very flighty, uninterested, very aloof girl, but she's just eager to prove herself in any endeavor, in her own, earn something for a change, where her previous life, everything was just handed to her. And then to add to all of that, she has one of the most fascinating subplots in the show, and one that maintained a great part of the audience for the show. And it was that she was in love with the Red Racer, the Red Carranger. However, she's in love with the Red Ranger, not Kisuke, his alter ego, which is another thing that is really important about this show. Before this show, all the Super Sentai teams would do such a shitty job of maintaining their secret identities. It seemed like the least important thing in the world. In this show, however, keeping their secret identities is number one, and is generally the catalyst to most of the plots. People almost discovering who they are, keeping the secret, who is allowed to know the secret. So, one of the subplots that illustrates this beautifully is how this super hot girl is in love with Kisuke's alter ego, with the Red Racer, but not him. She is this space goddess. So from her point of view, all human beings are stupid monkeys. And she refers to us as that. They're just stupid monkeys. So Kisuke can see that she has potential to be a good person and really likes her and really wants a girlfriend, especially one that looks like her. So it's that conflict of interest where he really likes this girl and he really wants to go out with her, but she's a villain and he has to stop her. And also, he's not allowed to reveal his secret identity. So that in itself, very enjoyable, very well done. And I'm somebody who's not into ships, but I was definitely down for the Zonet Red Racer ship. Totally down. I was completely on board, sailing away on that ship, totally into it. The crossover for this season, the Carranger crossover with the O-Ranger, and it was a million times better than the crossover from the previous year. Just adding the Carrangers to the mix made everything 100 times better, and it just felt more enjoyable, period. It's weird, Goro, the Red O-Ranger, he was there the whole time, but the rest of the team was barely in it. There's a moment where he's about to fight the Carrangers, and 3 of the other O-Rangers show up to help him, but the pink one, Momo, is missing. They're like, Momo's on a mission to this other place. And then, like 2 minutes later, Momo walks up. I'm back from that mission. And then they morph and they fight each other because they disagreed on something. When superheroes meet for the first time, they fight. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, so it was so weird that most of the O-Rangers were barely there, at least in their civilian form, which was very strange. And a missed opportunity because they're such disparate teams, and it would have been really interesting to see how they interacted. But we only really got to see the Carrangers interact with Goro, the Red O-Ranger, which was great. No complaints about that, but would have wanted them to see them interact with the rest of the O-Ranger team. That would have been nice. Anyway, so yeah, big improvement over last year's crossover, O-Ranger and Carranger. And we actually got to see at the end their mechs side by side. We got to see the O-Rangers and the Carrangers' big robots side by side fighting a monster. So that was awesome. So yes, just the addition of the O-Rangers to the crossovers seems to be key to the crossovers being better. No offense to Carranger, which is still one of my favorites, but for whatever reason, they just didn't know how to use the Carrangers evenly. They just either overshadowed the O-Rangers or they were not there. It was weird. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on Carrangers. awesome, hilarious. I can't recommend it enough. Now let's talk about the very next show that was adapted into a Power Rangers season. Mega Ranger! Or Electromagnetic Squadron Megaranger, which was adapted into Power Rangers in Space. The Power Rangers season that saved Power Rangers after Power Rangers Turbo nearly tanked the franchise. As most of you know, Power Rangers in Space, one of the best seasons of Power Rangers ever made. But here's when things get interesting as far as Super Sentai goes. So far, all the Super Sentai shows that I've talked about that were adapted into a Power Rangers season are better than the Power Rangers season that they were adapted to. Ranger, Dai Ranger, Kaku Ranger, O Ranger, and Carranger, all 5 of those are superior to the Power Rangers season that they were adapted to. Here, when it comes to Megaranger and Power Rangers in Space, this is when it flips. This is when Power Rangers becomes superior to their Super Sentai they're adapting. Now, you're going to hear me say this a lot when it comes to the Super Sentai shows from this point on. The Super Sentai version, Megaranger, is still a good show. It's still a really good show. It's just that Power Rangers just turned up the awesome dial from 5 to 11. Just turned it all the way up. And from this point on, just Power Rangers is just superior. There's no going around it, even when the Super Sentai show that they adapted was still good. And a prime example of that is Megaranger. Awesome show, highly recommended, just not as good as Power Rangers in Space. But the most surprising aspect about Megaranger is that it is nothing, absolutely nothing like Power Rangers in Space. The best way that I can explain it is that Power Rangers in Space is like a Weird Al parody. How the original song is fine, it's just the Weird Al version, the lyrics make more sense, and it's just a lot more fun, and it's just better put together than the original song, and you just prefer it over the original song, if you know what I mean. That's the difference. That's the best way I can explain the difference between Megaranger and Power Rangers in Space. So what the heck is Megarangers about if it's nothing, if it's not about them going into space? So Megarangers is yet another Super Sentai show that is about an invasion from another dimension. But this time around, there is this government group that work out of Nasada, from Power Rangers, that work out of Nasada called INET. And they have been preparing to fight off this threat by recruiting worthy individuals to come in and use the technology that they have developed to fight off this invasion from another dimension. And if you remember in Power Rangers in Space, Andromeda's ship, like half of it looked like it was not completed, like it was in a grid or whatever. That's because the ship was, half of it was still in another dimension. So yeah, it's invaders from another dimension. Anyway, so how does INET recruit worthy individuals to become the Mega Rangers? By putting out a Mega Ranger video game in arcades, and whoever's really good at playing that video game, those are the people that they're going to recruit to be Mega Rangers. Which is also the plot of The Last Starfighter. So, they recruit a grand total of one person, just one, to be a Mega Ranger via this method, Kenta, who is this lazy, unprofessional, unreliable, procrastinating jackass who's just really good at video games. They recruit him and nobody else via this method. They probably spent millions, possibly billions, to create this video game and put it out there to recruit people to be the Mega Rangers, and only used it for one person. The rest of the Mega Rangers are all students from a high school, a local high school, who broke into Nasada the day that it was invaded by the beings from another dimension, led by Dr. Nylar. They broke into Nasada because they wanted to write a report about Nasada. And instead of going there when they were invited, they just broke in. So they accidentally end up in the room with the head of the program, Professor Kubata, and Kenta, who they just recruited, and they get locked in the room via an electronic lock. And they take the lock apart and pick it, and they hack it, the 4 students. And because they hacked the lock, Dr. Kubota is like, holy shit, these are the Megarangers. None of them have fighting skills. None of them know how to pilot mechs. None of them have ever shot a gun before or handled an edge weapon, but those are the Megarangers. So while Megaranger doesn't do a very good job of telling the Power Rangers in Space story, it does do a much, much better job of telling the story of a bunch of teenagers with attitude being recruited to become this superhero fighting force. Way better than Mighty Morphing Power Rangers, in fact. So that's interesting. So if this show has absolutely nothing to do with them traveling to space, why the hell are their vehicles space themed? I have no idea. At first, the INET headquarters is a space station. So that's the reason they take off in the rocket in the first episode, but that's the last time they ever do that. And something that's so bizarre and so stupid is that their headquarters becomes the robot. It's not their starship like it is in Power Rangers in Space. It's their headquarters. And so their headquarters, filled with their entire personnel, becomes the robot that the Power Rangers fight in, still carrying like hundreds of INET employees inside of them. And by the way, the interior of the ship doesn't look anywhere as cool as it does in Power Rangers in Space. In Power Rangers in Space, it looks like this intergalactic spacefaring starship, like out of Star Trek. In Megaranger, just looks like offices with shitty 90s computers and rolling chairs. Like, if it moves, why would you put rolling chairs in a vehicle that moves? In a base that moves. So yeah, there's a lot of episodes where the the Mega Ranger are fighting a monster, and they're carrying their entire staff inside the robot, and the staff is like flying left and right, and I'm like, why? Why is that the base? And I guess inevitably the creators of the show realized that that was stupid, so they moved their base to the moon. And again, why is it on the moon? The Earth is being attacked, not space. And again, their vehicles, and that's when the Mega Ranger get individual vehicles, and they're still space themed. Why are they space themed? They don't need to travel to space. They need to go to Earth to fight the monster. Why not keep the vehicles on Earth? There's no point to go to space every time. That is so annoying. And also, the whole video game thing never comes up again. Every great now and then, you'll see a screen. When they defeat a monster, you'll see "Game Over" appear on the screen, and you're, oh yeah, that's right, they recruited Kenta via video games. But his ability as a gamer never comes up again. It is implied that his ability as a gamer makes him good at piloting the big robot. But here's the thing. The Mega Rangers video game was not about piloting a robot. It was a fighting game, like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. And you play as a Mega Ranger and fight monsters. It was a fighting game. So how did that make him a good fighter? Being just hitting buttons, and how did that make, I have no idea. How does that make him good at piloting a giant robot? Don't know. But it does, apparently. I guess, again, it's implied. So those things are stupid and meaningless. But the show itself, the characters, the stories are excellent. I was asked recently what my favorite episode was. There's an episode, and it very much has that Spider-Man aspect to it, where more often than not, them being the Mega Ranger affects their civilian lives negatively. And for example, in my favorite episode, where a bunch of civilians are being teleported to this hidden city in the other dimension. They're being kidnapped, and their life force is being used to power a machine. Two of the two most scholastically gifted of the Megaranger, Kisato and Koichiro, the black and yellow Megaranger, they have their university entry exams that day, that happens, and the people are being kidnapped. And so the team decides, no, you two go take that test. The three of us will go and handle this and stop this threat. Okay, you guys focus on your scholastic careers. So they go and they get captured. So Koichiro and Kisato, they have to skip these very important exams that could decide the rest of their lives to go and save their friends and save all the people that were kidnapped. And that episode is amazing. And most of the episodes are like that. It's their duty as Mega Rangers negatively affecting their lives, their real lives, which is brilliant and really well handled. And then I feel, in my humble opinion, that this show has one of the greatest finales out of all the Super Sentai shows, where a monster attacks the school where they go to, and to save their friends, to save the school, the Mega Rangers are forced to morph in public, and everybody sees them transform into the Mega Rangers, and their identities are exposed. And they save the day, they stop the monster, but now that everybody knows that they're Mega Ranger, the general public has a completely adverse reaction to this. And their attitude is like, oh, we're so happy that you're here fighting off these monsters, but could you keep the fighting somewhere else? Like away from my house, away from my school, away from the places where I shop. Like, can you just keep that over there? Like, every time you guys show up, you just attract monsters. So if you could just go somewhere else and take the fighting somewhere else where it doesn't affect me, that would be great. And they get expelled from school the last week of school before graduation, so they don't know if they're going to get to graduate. Their homes gets destroyed. They live in dorms, and they try to go to Kenta's house. I think Kenta's family runs a grocery store. The family grocery store gets destroyed, so they can't stay there at the loft above the grocery store, the apartment, I believe. Excuse me. So they're homeless. They can't go to school, and they're living in this shitty warehouse on the last week of school, and they're miserable. And for the most part, the actors in the show, play their characters. This goofy, immature teenagers, standard, the kind of standard characters you'd see in the Super Sentai shows. And in that last episode, man, you can really see that these guys are amazing actors. They really brought their A game for this really dramatic finale. And one of the most heartbreaking moments is that they ran out of food. So two of them, I think Sean and Miku, the blue and pink Mega Rangers, they go to the grocery store to get more food and supplies. And there's this kid playing with a car, and the little toy car gets away from him and hits Miku's foot. And she very politely gets down and plays with him and passes the car back to him. And when the kid's mom notices that it's them, immediately she picks up her child and runs away from them like they're diseased. And I think she says something to the effect like, you two should shop somewhere else, you're putting us in danger. And you can see the actress that plays Miku, you can see her heart break in that moment. And it's just a beautiful, dramatic scene. In Power Rangers in Space, famously, there's one of the penultimate episodes of the show, towards the end, is the one where they fight a Hummer, and the Hummer's super powerful, nearly destroys them, and then it turns into a giant mech and they fight it. Well, the reason that mech was so badass, and by association, the Hummer was so badass, nearly killed the Power Rangers, was because the mech that it transforms into is Dr. Nylar's mech, the final boss, the main villain of Megaranger. That fight that you see in that episode against the mech Hummer, not the Hummer, not the vehicle, but the robot it transforms into, that footage is from Mega Rangers, and it's from the final battle in the show where they nearly sacrificed themselves to stop Dr. Nylar from destroying the Earth. And they famously are, I think they hit the self-destruct button on their mech, and they grab Dr. Nylar and they go fly into space to destroy him, and hoping that they will eject in time before it explodes. And an epic, awesome finale. And then at the end, in a moment that will tug at your heartstrings, at graduation, they had to walk and get their diplomas in their Rangers, in their Mega Ranger uniforms. The crossover this season with Carranger, also a lot of fun. So like I said just earlier, I think the secret to doing really good crossovers is to just include the Carrangers. But in this case, the two teams gelled beautifully. The Mega Rangers and the Carrangers just perfectly fit together. And this time around, unlike the last crossover with O-Ranger, this time around they really utilized all the characters, and you really got to see everybody interact with one another and their different personalities mesh. That was awesome. So those are not much to say about the Silver Ranger. I'm sorry, he's an employee at INET who created the suit and joins them. Funny, interesting guy. Didn't dislike the character. But other than that, I just don't have much. He really didn't add that much to it. I feel that the 5 Mega Rangers were fine on their own. Anyway, there you go. Those are my opinions on Mega Ranger as well as Carranger. Agree, disagree, feel free to say so in the comment section below, as well as let me know what other Super Sentai shows you want me to talk about. FYI, Super Sentai fandom, I'm having trouble finding subtitles, English subtitled episodes, or preferably dubbed episodes of Abaranger. If you guys know where I can find them, preferably for free to watch, so I can talk about them in the future, please let me know. Email me at ERod@inbox.com. Send me the link where I can watch the full series of Abaranger. Definitely want to check it out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, is the Super Sentai show that was adapted into Power Rangers Dino Thunder. That one. And now for the part of the video that all of you love, the announcements at the end. Right now on my Patreon page, my highly anticipated e-rant of all 3 of the Crisis on Infinite Earths animated movies. So if you want to see that video, but you're not a patron, just go to patreon.com/ERod and pledge $1. That's it. You pledge $1 and you get bonus videos, and at the same time, you're helping me continue to produce content. You can't beat that with a wooden stick. And now to reveal what my next honest review will be. I not only will reveal that, I will reveal what the whole theme for next month will be. It's October. It's Halloween. It's Killjoy month, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to try to do videos that are either Halloween or horror themed for the whole month, including my honest review, which will be an honest review of Courage the Cowardly Dog, one of Marsha's all-time favorite shows. I'm doing it in her honor, as well as to just celebrate spooky fun for Halloween, October, aka Killjoy month, trademark. Anyway, so expect to see that on this YouTube channel very, very soon. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, because I could not do what I do without you.